This woman needs to be removed. Now. The manager's voice echoed in the opulent lobby. They thought she was a trespasser because of her clothes. They didn't know she had just bought the entire hotel. Amara Vance stepped out of the rideshare and into the biting evening air, the sleek, imposing glass facade of the Celestial Spire Hotel looming over her. Inside, the lobby was a cathedral of modern, sterile luxury. Polished chrome and vast expanses of white marble reflected the cold, abstract art hanging on the walls, creating an atmosphere that was less welcoming and more a declaration of its own exclusivity. Amara felt the familiar gaze land on her the second she walked through the revolving doors. It came from a woman standing behind the monolithic reception desk, a woman in her 50s with perfectly coiffed silver hair and a tailored suit that looked like armor. This was Eleanor Croft, the hotel manager, and her eyes, sharp and judgmental, performed a swift, brutal calculus. They took in Amara's attire, a vintage Nirvana t-shirt layered under an oversized designer blazer, a pair of artfully distressed jeans, and limited edition sneakers that cost more than Eleanor's monthly mortgage. It was the uniform of a certain kind of new money, a quiet code of wealth that Eleanor, a disciple of old-world propriety, could not or would not decipher. To her, it just looked messy. Unworthy. "May I help you?" Eleanor's voice was coated in a thin, brittle layer of professional sweetness, but the condescension underneath was unmistakable. Amara approached the desk, her posture relaxed but confident. "Good evening. I have a reservation. It should be under Vance Hospitality Group." Eleanor didn't even pretend to look at her computer. Her gaze flickered over Amara again, lingering on the worn fabric of her t-shirt. "Vance Hospitality," she repeated, drawing the name out as if it tasted strange. "I highly doubt that, miss." The lobby, though spacious, suddenly felt small and crowded. A young couple, busy taking selfies near a large metal sculpture, paused to watch. A man in a suit, loudly discussing cryptocurrency into his AirPods, lowered his voice, his attention diverted. They were all part of the audience for the performance Eleanor was about to orchestrate. "If you could just check the system," Amara said, her voice even and calm. She was used to this, the subtle and overt challenges to her presence in spaces like this. "There's no need to check the system," Eleanor declared, her voice rising just enough to draw more attention. "This is a premier establishment, with certain standards. We cater to a specific caliber of clientele." She let the words hang in the air, her meaning as sharp and clear as the cut of her suit. "Perhaps," she added, her smile turning venomous, "you would be more comfortable down the street. I believe there's a motel with a vacancy sign." The humiliation was a physical thing, a wave of heat that washed over Amara. She saw the smirks on the faces of the other guests. She saw the uncomfortable shuffle of a young bellhop who wanted to be anywhere else. This wasn't just a misunderstanding, it was a public shaming, executed with practiced precision. "I assure you, the reservation is there," Amara insisted, holding her ground. This was a mistake. It was a challenge to Eleanor's authority, and Eleanor relished a challenge. "I think I've been quite clear," she snapped, the sweetness in her voice finally cracking. She gave a sharp, almost theatrical nod to the two security guards standing near the entrance. "This individual is refusing to leave. Please escort her out." As the guards, two large men whose expressions were carefully blank, began to approach, Amara made one last attempt. She reached into her blazer pocket and pulled out her wallet, extracting a sleek, black, metal card. The Amex Centurion. Invitation only. No preset spending limit. She placed it on the marble counter. "Maybe this will help you verify who I am." Eleanor glanced at the card with theatrical disdain. "Oh, please. Anyone can get a convincing fake these days. It's remarkable what you can buy online." She waved a dismissive hand at the guards. "Now. Get her out of my lobby." The guards flanked Amara. To her credit, she didn't resist. She didn't raise her voice. She simply met Eleanor's triumphant gaze with a look of unnerving calm. As they guided her toward the revolving doors, a parade of shame for the entertainment of the wealthy guests, Eleanor delivered her final, ringing pronouncement. And for the record, you are now permanently banned from the Celestial Spire Hotel and all its affiliate properties. If you attempt to return, you will be arrested for trespassing. The glass doors spun shut behind her, leaving Amara standing alone in the cold, the echoes of public humiliation still ringing in her ears. But beneath the sting of it, a different feeling was taking hold, the cold, quiet fury of a CEO about to liquidate an asset. Out on the sidewalk, the city's noise a dull roar around her, Amara didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't even allow her expression to betray the burning anger in her chest. Instead, she slipped into the mode that had made her a billionaire before the age of 30, pure, cold, and ruthlessly efficient execution. She pulled out her phone, a custom-built device with military-grade encryption. Her thumbprint unlocked it, and she opened a proprietary app her company had developed, an interface named Aegis. On the screen was a single, ominous-looking icon labeled Thunderbolt. It was a preset protocol for moments exactly like this one, moments of corporate warfare. She pressed it. Instantly, a cascade of automated actions was triggered. A press release, drafted weeks ago by her legal team, announcing Vance Hospitality Group's completed acquisition of Celestial Holdings International, was blasted to every major financial news outlet in the world. Simultaneously, an urgent, all-hands meeting request was sent to the entire executive board of Celestial Holdings, scheduling a video conference in exactly 20 minutes. A third command dispatched a data preservation order to the hotel's IT department, locking down all internal communications, security footage, and personnel files, effective immediately. While the digital storm she had unleashed began to gather force, Amara allowed herself a moment of reflection. This wasn't just business. It was deeply personal. She was the daughter of immigrants who had scrubbed floors and driven taxis so she could get an education. She had fought her way through the overwhelmingly white, male world of tech, enduring 1,000 tiny cuts of prejudice and 100 blatant acts of discrimination. She had built her empire not just to amass wealth, but to build spaces where people who looked like her would never have to feel the way she felt right now. She had bought the Celestial Spire chain precisely because she'd heard whispers of its toxic, exclusionary culture. She knew that rot like Eleanor Crofts wasn't an anomaly, it was a feature, a carefully cultivated part of the brand. And the only way to cure a rot like that was to burn it out from the root. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from her COO, a man who had been with her since her first startup. COO, Thunderbolt is live. Are you okay? Amara typed back, her fingers moving swiftly. Amara, never better. Get the board on the line. I'm about to give them a live performance review of their flagship properties management. Prepare termination paperwork for Eleanor Croft. Effective tonight. A moment later, another message. COO, done. The world is about to watch. Amara looked up, through the pristine glass of the lobby doors. She could see Eleanor holding court, accepting what looked like congratulations from the smirking crypto bro. The manager was basking in the glow of her petty victory, utterly oblivious to the fact that her entire universe was about to be dismantled, atom, by the woman she had just thrown out into the street. A faint, cold smile touched Amara's lips. The storm was coming. And she was going to walk right back into the middle of it. It took less than 10 minutes for the first tremors of the earthquake to reach the lobby of the Celestial Spire. The tech bro who had been loudly pontificating about blockchain suddenly fell silent, his eyes wide as he stared at his phone. No way, he whispered, grabbing his companion's arm. Holy crap, Chloe, look at this. He shoved his phone in her face. A breaking news alert from a major financial network was splashed across the screen. Tech mogul Amara Vance's hospitality group acquires Celestial Holdings in shocking multi-billion-dollar deal. Like a virus, the information spread. Phones began to buzz and chime across the lobby. The influencer couple stopped their posing, their faces shifting from curated boredom to genuine shock. Murmurs rippled through the cavernous space as guests frantically Googled the news, their screens illuminating their stunned faces. Eleanor Croft, still preening by the reception desk, was the last to notice. She was too busy recounting her heroic defense of the hotel's standards to a pair of fawning elderly guests. "You simply develop an instinct for these things," she was saying. "I could tell the moment she walked in that she was trouble." It was the assistant manager, a young man named Liam, who saw it first. His face went pale as he read the alert on his own device. He looked from his phone to the revolving glass doors, which at that exact moment, began to spin. Amara Vance walked back in. She moved with the same unhurried calm as before, but this time, the atmosphere was entirely different. The whispers died instantly. Every eye in the lobby was locked on her, a mixture of awe, confusion, and dawning horror in their gazes. Eleanor's face contorted in a mask of fury. "What is the meaning of this? I told you that you were banned." "Security," she shrieked, turning to where the guards stood. But the guards weren't moving. They were staring at their own phones, their faces ashen. The head guard, a man named Jake, looked from his screen to Amara, and then to his boss, a flicker of pure panic in his eyes. Liam, the assistant manager, stumbled toward Eleanor, his hands shaking. "Eleanor, the news, you need to see." "What are you babbling about, Liam?" she hissed, batting his hand away. "Do your job and get her out of here." But Amara wasn't looking at Eleanor. She walked directly to the reception desk, her gaze fixed on the terrified assistant manager. Her voice was quiet, yet it carried through the tomb-like silence of the lobby. "I believe," she said, "you have a reservation for the Vance Group. Perhaps you could check again." With trembling fingers, Liam typed the name into the system. He didn't need to. He already knew what he would find. On the screen, a reservation popped up, glowing with VIP status. Penthouse suite. Unlimited amenities. And next to it, a corporate profile note with a picture. He looked from the smiling, confident face of the CEO on his screen to the woman standing in front of him. They were the same person. Eleanor, finally sensing the shift in the room's power dynamic, strode over to see what Liam was staring at. She peered at the screen, her eyes scanning the profile. Name, Amara Vance. Title, Founder and CEO, Vance Hospitality Group. Note, conducting initial, in-person property assessment. The blood drained from Eleanor's face. The carefully constructed world of her own authority, built on a foundation of prejudice and petty power, didn't just crack. It exploded, leaving nothing but the cold, terrifying vacuum of reality in its wake. She looked at Amara, truly seeing her for the first time, not as a trespasser, but as the woman who now owned her entire world. The silence in the lobby was so absolute it felt like a physical weight. Every guest was frozen, a statue in a museum of consequence. Eleanor Croft's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. The woman who, minutes ago, had commanded the space with such arrogant authority was now utterly paralyzed. Amara reached into her blazer pocket and retrieved a business card. It was made of thick, heavy stock, the lettering a simple, elegant black against a stark white background. She slid it across the vast marble countertop, where it came to a stop directly in front of Eleanor. It lay there like a verdict. Amara Vance. Founder and CEO. Vance Hospitality Group. Eleanor stared at the card as if it were a venomous snake. This is a trick," she stammered, her voice a hoarse whisper. "A fake. It has to be. Does it?" Amara's voice was devoid of emotion. It was the voice of a surgeon about to make a precise incision. She took out her phone, dialed a number, and put it on speaker. The clear, crisp voice of her chief operating officer filled the lobby. "Amara, you're on. The entire former board of Celestial Holdings is on the line. They're eager to welcome you and hear your initial thoughts on the acquisition." The words, former board, hung in the air, each one a nail in Eleanor's professional coffin. Her knees buckled slightly, and she gripped the edge of the desk to keep from falling. She was no longer just dealing with a guest she had wronged, she was on a conference call with the ghosts of her former bosses, and her new one was holding the phone. "Good evening, everyone," Amara said, her voice calm and steady as she addressed the phone. "I'm calling you live from the lobby of your flagship property, the Celestial Spire. I have to say, my initial assessment has been incredibly illuminating." A flurry of confused, panicked voices erupted from the phone speaker. "Ms. Vance, what's going on? Is there a problem?" "There is," Amara confirmed, her eyes locked on Eleanor. "Your manager here, Eleanor Croft, has just provided me with a masterclass in customer service. A truly unforgettable performance demonstrating precisely why this acquisition was so necessary." She held the phone out towards Eleanor. "Go on, Eleanor. Tell them. Tell your former board of directors all about your rigorous standards. Explain your screening process for clientele. Share your keen insights on who, exactly, belongs in a luxury hotel. This wasn't an act of revenge, it was a corporate execution." Amara was dismantling her, not with anger, but with process. She was forcing Eleanor to confront the consequences of her prejudice on the very stage where she had so proudly performed it. The head of security, Jake, took a hesitant step forward, his training warring with the sheer, unprecedented nature of what he was witnessing. "Ma'am. Ms. Vance, should I?" Amara held up a hand, stopping him. "It's all right, Jake. This part of the lesson isn't for you." Eleanor stared at the phone as if it were a loaded gun pointed at her head. The confident, imperious manager was gone, replaced by a terrified woman trapped in a nightmare of her own making. She was being audited, in real time, in front of an audience of her victims, her enablers, and the very people who held her fate in their hands. And the auditor was the woman she had just tried to throw in jail for trespassing. With the entire lobby as her witness and the former board of directors listening in stunned silence, Amara Vance delivered the final, decisive blow. Her voice, still amplified by the speakerphone, was directed at her COO. "David, I need you to connect me to human resources. Immediately." A moment of silence, then a new voice, professional and sharp, came on the line. "Jennifer, head of HR, speaking." "Go ahead, Amara." "Jennifer," Amara said, her tone leaving no room for negotiation. "I am authorizing the immediate termination of employment for Eleanor Croft, General Manager of the Celestial Spire. Cause for termination, gross violation of the company's anti-discrimination policy, willful misconduct, and actions resulting in catastrophic damage to the brand's reputation." A collective gasp swept through the lobby. Eleanor staggered back, a strangled cry escaping her lips. Jennifer's voice came back, clinical and devastating. "Termination authorized, Amara. And for the record, I've just pulled her file. We have digital records of 17 separate anonymous complaints filed against her in the last 2 years for discriminatory behavior, all of which were flagged and subsequently buried by the previous management." 17. The number landed like a bomb. It transformed Eleanor from a manager who made a single, terrible mistake into a serial abuser who had finally been caught. The staff members who had stood by silently now exchanged horrified looks, the truth of their complicity dawning on them. "This is a setup." Eleanor finally shrieked, her composure shattering completely. "You can't do this. I'll sue. This is entrapment." Her hysteria was met with the cold, hard reality of the modern world. The tech bro was live-streaming now, his phone held high. The influencer couple's video, posted just minutes ago with the caption, "Karen Manager Gets Epic Karma," was already racking up thousands of views. Outside, the flash of cameras could be seen as the first news vans pulled up to the curb. The hashtag #HotelJustice was trending worldwide. Amara looked at the head of security. "Jake," she said, her voice cutting through Eleanor's frantic cries. "Please escort Ms. Croft from the premises. Ensure she collects her personal belongings from her office. Follow standard procedure." The irony was so thick it was almost suffocating. Jake, the same guard who had followed Eleanor's orders to remove Amara, now had to perform the same duty on his former boss. He nodded grimly, his face a mixture of relief and regret. "Yes, ma'am." As he and the other guard moved to flank a now sobbing Eleanor, they followed the exact path they had taken with Amara 20 minutes earlier. Past the gawking guests, past the stunned staff, toward the same revolving doors. It was a perfect, brutal, and symmetrical end to her career. The public humiliation she had designed for another had become her own, broadcast to the world as a permanent testament to her bigotry. As the glass doors spun her out into the night and the flashing cameras of the waiting press, it wasn't just a job she was losing. It was her reputation, her future, and her entire identity, all incinerated in the blaze of a reckoning she herself had ignited. 1 year later, the lobby of the Celestial Spire was unrecognizable. Not in its design, the marble still gleamed, the chrome still shone, but in its soul. Near the entrance, a discreet but powerful bronze plaque had been installed. It read, "In honor of all who were once made to feel unwelcome, may this be a space where dignity is never a luxury, but a standard." Dedicated 2026. The new general manager, Liam, greeted Amara with a warm, genuine smile. The young man who had trembled with fear during the incident had found his courage. After undergoing intensive leadership and diversity training, he had been promoted, tasked with overseeing the hotel's cultural rebirth. The staff was more diverse, the atmosphere more inclusive, and guest satisfaction scores, particularly among minority travelers, had skyrocketed. The Advanced Dignity Audit, a system of undercover assessments Amara had developed, had become the new gold standard in the industry. Competing chains, terrified of their own Eleanor Croft moment going viral, scrambled to implement similar reforms. As for Eleanor, she had become a ghost. Blacklisted from every major hospitality group, her name was now a cautionary tale whispered in HR training sessions, a case study at business schools on the catastrophic cost of unchecked prejudice. Amara walked through the vibrant lobby, watching families of all backgrounds laughing, business people of all races closing deals, and couples of all kinds celebrating. This was the vision. This was why she had fought. She stopped at the spot where it had all happened and turned to face the camera, speaking directly to her millions of YouTube subscribers. 1 year ago, on this very spot, a 20-minute act of humiliation sparked a revolution in this industry. Today, this hotel is a symbol of what's possible when we demand accountability. Statistics flashed on the screen, 17 rival chains reformed. 400+ managers terminated for cause. 67% increase in minority guest satisfaction across the board. But we're not stopping with hotels, Amara continued, her voice filled with passion and purpose. The fight for dignity is everywhere. That's why tonight, we're launching the Dignity Challenge. Nominate any business, a restaurant, a car dealership, a retail store, where you've faced discrimination. My team will investigate, and we will share the results with the world. She gestured to the plaque. Eleanor Croft's story didn't end with her firing. It began with our collective decision to say, no more. Now, I have a question for you. Do you believe a single person's prejudice should be the responsibility of the entire company? Where do you stand on what happened here tonight? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. Let's have a real conversation about how we build a world where everyone belongs. She paused, letting her message sink in. If you believe, as I do, that dignity is a right, not a privilege, then subscribe to the channel. Join the movement. Because the work is just beginning. The final shot was of Amara turning away from the camera, smiling as she watched a young black family being checked in by a smiling, respectful Liam. The image was a powerful, silent testament to the change one person, armed with courage and conviction, could truly make.